going down.
I mean, we said, you asked me if I wanted to
Alan,
say
Daniel,
something
Caleb,
here
Judah.
for spell search.
I know, it's 11, that's what I'm
So it
saying.
starts
Yeah,
with me
yeah.
and Judah.
Yeah, Caleb.
I was going to base for else.
Daniel, set down the 8 ball.
What are you doing?
Set it down.
It is down.
Daniel, set it down right there.
Put it down. Now it's dead.
Wait. Ah. So this is the word.
Hey, Caleb, down.
Krista.
Because it hit him.
You were up shorter than Caleb.
No, that's not what it did. It went in. So.
Why is my tall Micah?
Who's the
I'm less than a quarter of way from 5 feet.
Judah, you
Very
are
similar
better.
deficit.
I'm going
Wait, do you
Chris
measure
Adler.
how tall you are?
Chris
You might
Adler.
almost be as tall as my mom.
That's you,
5
Caleb.
foot.
You're short.
4 feet.
You're short.
You're short.
I'm not sure.
Short.
You're shorter than me. If I was like green, probably.
Shorter. I'm like a million years taller than you.
Kill. Oh, hit it.
Yeah, she's
Ah! That's my ringtone.
Yeah.
Abby.
You're so bad at this.
That's
Krista, and then Alan.
No, Krista, no, Krista, no, Krista.
Yes, yes, yes.
No, Krista. No, no,
Nice.
no, I
Nice, you're
didn't-
bad.
Alan, you touched it when she missed.
Thank you, Alan.
You're bad.
Will you stop making noise? Oh!
Oh.
No, it's a reset. That's a
You're
reset.
bad.
That's a reset.
Never mind. That's a reset?
I'm short.
I thought that counted as a letter.
No, that's a reset. Middle one's a reset.
Alan, put your dignity down.
Why is that same?
Stop being possessive.
That works.
Go! I want the gravel for such a long time here, but
Oh,
Amazing! I played Fortnite this morning, and I got a squad victory.
We were playing Portal 2 this morning.
That's tough. I played Call of Duty for like 3 hours this morning.
We suck at Portal 2.
I won 2 games of Call of Duty in 2 hours. Very sad.
It took us an hour to figure out how to
Why is you smelly shoe?
Yeah.
Go.
Wait, where's your phone?
There's a lot more than was supposed to be going on. What?
Abby, go! Krista! Krista, get ready! You're up! You're up!
Mother distracted me.
Yes, Alan, please!
I do.
We should watch
Micah, go turn
Stranger
on the
Things.
key thing.
Why is the Davis
I have.
This is yours. This is yours.
Oh, actually,
Yeah, I
she
did too.
What band shirt?
Just a band shirt.
Oh, Vans.
Oh, you haven't said Why do you want?
Band shirt.
Why are you all?
Oh, we don't be wearing all bands. Band
Why do you
shoes,
have
band
so many
pants,
things
band
on your
shirt.
bloody phone, Joe? What?
Whose
This
turn is it?
Why
And
do you have
why?
so many things on your bloody phone?
Whose turn is it?
Why do you go send any bloody things on your phone, Charlotte?
You sound like an old lady. Okay, go.
Wait,
Go,
who's
Dan.
after me?
Yeah, that's good. I have 2 letters.
Go!
I have
Extreme car
I'm
driving
not touching
simulator. That's the name.
Wow, Alan.
Why are you going through my phone anyways?
Because
I regret putting your face ID on my phone.
Oh,
Krista.
oh, that's sad.
Krista.
Krista!
I'm so good. I win.
Abby, you're amazing.
It's a blimp!
Alan.
Alan! It's a
Just hit it
blimp!
hard.
It's a blimp!
Yeah.
Why are you going through my picture?
Yes, because
Yes!
That's a reset
I
on you.
can't. That's
That's a
what you put
reset
my
on
face ID
you.
on your
That's
phone.
just-
That is my fault.
You have to go again, and I'm after you.
That's reset has never been a
It's
thing.
always been a thing.
Alan,
Every single thing has been a thing.
Your phone
That's
is
the name, Caleb.
That's the thing, Caleb.
Well, Caleb, why are you using
Caleb,
it?
that's the thing.
Wait,
Like,
ours is
this one I'm not
supposed to be.
I took a
Screenshot?
screenshot.
No,
Screenshot.
he tried, but lost.
No.
Zoom in. It's literally
Yeah,
a
stop
picture.
telling Danny.
Oh, wait.
You're not supposed to be good at
Don't
juggling.
look at my
You're
short.
bad at
Juggle two
juggling.
balls.
Whatever.
I could juggle one ball.
My goodness,
It's not juggling, it's
Alan.
just slapping it.
That was
Okay,
amazing.
you have to go right here. What?
No, watch this. This is gonna be sick. You can barely don't. No!
So sick.
You're not supposed to touch it!
You're
That's
bad.
okay.
You're gonna put it in the same spot.
Alan can nice. Babe. No,
You're bad.
do that, Alan.
Danny. Nice one, Danny. Stop hitting it, Caleb, you black midget. the opposite of what he is.
A white midget.
You told me to listen to James, so I have to follow you.
Alright, Melissa, you're up next. Alan, ready? Okay. Alan, what? Move!
I'll explain it to you later.
Oh no.
You're right.
Abby!
Wait, who's after me?
Alan, I said move. I said move.
Oh yeah, you have to reset the TV. Reset the whole thing. No, what are you doing? Oh, it's my turn. I didn't mean to do that. Danny, this is your fault.
No.
Yes, it's all my fault.
Hack yourself.
Alan, hit it hard!
I have to go
No,
change.
I'm so
Okay, after I go.
So short. Kira.
Nice one, Alan. You missed.
Are you pressing one?
She's trying. It failed miserably.
So we both can spam the ball.
Ah! I'm so bad at this game.
I need to speak here.
I love my shoes.
Megan, no doubt.
What happened to my other shoe?
Krista, Alan, you're all up. It's I have a seat!
There.
No, that doesn't count. My hand was still there.
Got four.
Michael! Krista! Krista! Use short version! Okay, hit it hard enough. Please, don't.
Guys, I'm going
Don't
to
be
the
weird like that.
airport.
No! I hate this game.
I know, but they're fine.
You midget!
Oh.
Go! Krista, the midget! Oh, no! Alan! You midget, don't! No!
Hey, he's an actual midget. Don't call him.
I said no!
Danny, why are you calling everybody?
Yeah, I'm CR.
Danny,
I'm CR.
What game?
I said that like a million years ago, and you already told me don't do that. And then you said it again, and I didn't even do it again.
Oh!
I've done it once, and then you said it like twice. Don't do that, and this is the third time. I've seen her before. She brought Annie to the point.
We could have gone.
I was going to invite you, but I
Middle
don't
school could have gone.
have. Well, you have to go by yourself. Aiden went by himself with his family. I told him to invite you, but he wouldn't. He wouldn't respond. I think he blocked him.
No, he got
I know.
Spam X.
Wait, do you want to play now? Actually play.
I don't know, just red buttons, I guess.
Yeah, he's that good.
What is
No. Okay. It's just Aiden. And
That would have gone. Ah!
Alan, I'm stuck upside down.
Press the circle button.
Judah.
Oh, me! Gotta go.
What did he do that? Judah.
Oh, you see that? I'm literally, we're cool. We're cool. We're cool. You see that, Danny? Abby's out, by the way.
Marty.
Dang, I'm making donuts.
No, actually, I have.
What car are you using?
The blue one.
Left
It's
face.
Abby's turn. I was here. Look at your sister.
I have no idea.
No.
Because it's her. I don't know.
Hey!
Oh.
That one is.
Sorry.
Mom, it's your turn.
Why is there
No, it is your turn. You're out.
Abby, you're out.
Okay, she's out.
And then, literally,
Use the golden one.
Yeah, but you have the blue one on that.
on the same street, it said, oh, look,
Oh,
there are
no.
gangs literally doing violence or whatever, and then they canceled back through the bank. No, the Mexico.
Here's your white ball.
I have
Give it the black ball.
You
Put
want
it right there.
Watch this. This won't be amazing.
Oh my god,
Danny!
No, I'm going to get this. Stop. Don't move it. Stop.
not gonna be amazing. No one's gonna be like, ooh, wow.
Alright. No, it's gonna be ah, I'm so close. Okay, watch me.
Okay, move it slowly. You get a letter.
No, I don't. You're out. Okay, if I hit it seriously this time, I don't get it. I'm amazing.
It just curves around the black ball. Vroom, I'm a car. Okay, cool. Someone put that thing there.
Judy, you have like a CRU or something.
I have a CR now. This is my CR.
CR.
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
What's that?
Massachusetts.
Stop!
Kenny, you jump out the table. Gets out. Caleb.
Wait.
Turn short because he's short.
Room on the car!
Stop.
You get a redo.
Coming!
You're bad at the comedy.
It's not becoming homie. It's just becoming guy.
Out. You have no, I won't. I'm sorry. You.
Just get it out again. Out. Just get it out.
No.
Get out. Now you're out. You're out.
You're out. Wait, I'm out.
Yes, you're out. You have a CRUB.
No, you're not going. I still need to shoot. He hit the ball out. So now he's out.
How did
Well,
I
I'm
get
not
2
supposed to-
letters? I did it!
I'm so in.
Watch this. I can still.
Oh, watch me! You look so much like your little brother. Your brother looks so much like you. Oh, I'm amazing!
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah!
You already hit it.
I'm amazing.
Again, you're out now.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. You are. CR,
No, I'm
you are
not.
DR.
You already hit it.
Okay, whose turn is it?
Yeah, so I have CR.
Whose turn is it?
Dude, you were never black and white.
No.
You should be a bully.
Look at that. His black and white just doubled.
No, you're not.
You missed. It was actually not the circle, the dot exactly. We have to redo that. Okay, try it now.
No.
Yeah! See, that's how you do it.
Oh no, it broke it.
No.
Oh, stop! Still, I win!
I still have a CR.
Beautiful.
You have a CRU.
What?
You have a CRU. I have a CR.
Oh, shit.
Let's go.
No, if I win, you have to go.
No!
That's my CRU. What do you mean?
Oh, now I remember what it was so true. These white girls were doing that. You don't remember yesterday? Ed, they grew up. Oh my God, I'm so hard.
Oh my gosh. Doesn't matter. Just get out already.
Alex and Lou, is that something you don't want to do? No.
No,
Just
you
say
just did
the
that.
word.
Did the rock face.
Yeah.
Hang it, con!
That was you.
You're out.
What the heck? That's what I was gonna
He said he did the rock.
I have a CRU. Wait, do you have a CRU too?
Yes. Yes. I am a winner. What?
Just get out, Judah.
Shoot!
I win. You're out. What? No, I'm not. What are you doing? No. He's going over there and fell over.
No, it's only Cassidy. Please. No,
most times it comes to like getting.
But you know what? Why is it insulting?
Like what else?
Still from me.
You're not supposed to tell me anything.
Yeah, you
You're
trash.
about what? You're telling me everything about Asia.
I know.
Alright, Asia's not here.
I know. So.
You're talking to the guy that does this.
Chill.
No.
Vehicle going out. With your mouth. Put in your pocket.
Why are we not able to talk about how the big Asians do it?
Because Asians hate us.
Look here. Never leave you alone. We know it's on TV. That's perfect stuff from being
I didn't do anything. It's just I'm doing.
You know, we need to do
What?
actual
Why did I go around this?
When was the last time you played Super Smash Bros? Exactly. Logan comes my classroom.
If anything, it will be my classroom.
If anything,
Logan's my dad.
if anything,
You're my aunt. You
I'm
definitely
like the
do not
second-
look like Zoe's child because he's Zoe's
I'm the second tallest and most mature one here.
Oh, Zoe's actually my wife. You're the second. Well,
Poor Logan.
Poor Logan is Judah. He doesn't know. Judah. No, he knows. I'm joking. No, you're not marrying Zoe. They can't get you Logan and marrying her.
Cool.
Yeah, he's only 17. He's not gonna get married when he's gonna get married. Logan's my legal guardian.
Yeah. Same one. Same one. Roll, pal.
Literally, that was said to me just last week. Hey, I didn't accept what that was. I literally have like accepting that back and so you think that you know? I wouldn't know if What did Aiden do?
Oh yeah.
Black and white, not black.
Oh yeah, I saw him do that.
We can reset the whole thing. I can unplug it.
We don't talk about when I was a baby, okay?
I tried to fix it. It wouldn't work. Wouldn't break it.
Sure, right.
Just make Caleb play too.
That's your number. They're not talking. It's not
There's
good.
one on your team. Okay, yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're so close.
Oh yeah, pool.
I can solve a side. I'm amazing. I've never solved a side. Yes. I can solve one side. Amazing like that.
Shut up. You're not gonna make it.
No, are you dumb?
Yes.
There was one right there.
I know. Still. You've been broken. I need some.
Michael, they were giving that. I didn't know.
Makes the black one in. That'd be sad.
What is this? What is this? Guys, just make one here.
Come on, table.
Nobody. Oh. No,
No, it'll work. It'll work. Yeah. What are you doing? Do you even know who you are? Logan! When I whacked you over the head with an microphone, no, I sure. I get you. Yeah, I mean, here's your gift. Wait, why do you think you got it? Because he went for me.
No.
Oh, your problem. Bro, you're I made 2 stripes in. No, is that a stripe? No, that's the weight. It's fine. No, it's a stripe. Okay. You gotta get the other ball out. No, we're not playing.
Yeah.
We're not playing. You win and you win. That's literally too. Yeah, I know. Oh no, actually.
Why do they allow people to play?
No one allowed to. No.
Are we sitting down or are we playing pool?
I don't have to whack it. I could have made it. Yes, you will. What are you still talking? You can call me Whisper Dan. I don't know that.
Well, not right there. On the chair. Over here.
Alright, I think we got almost everybody ready. Good morning, everybody. Almost afternoon. How's everybody doing? You started school this week.
Yeah.
Last week.
I'm starting school tomorrow.
Tomorrow. You're starting the week off. Alright, so you had a busy week with school, right? So, who's tired from that week of school? Yeah? Yeah. Learning is, takes a lot of energy to learn. But then you get smart, you know, like me, and I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm not that either. Alright, so we're gonna study in 1 Timothy chapter 4. And my focus is to kind of like talk about you and being young and also being an instrument for God. So we're going to kind of go over some things. So let's open up with prayer and then we'll get started. So Father, thank you for this week that we've had. Bless our upcoming week. Help us to be prosperous. Help us to stand firm in you. Help us to be generous. Help us to be an example to those that need a good example in this world. Help us to focus on truth. Keep that in mind as we go through our learning. Help us to be people that are respected, that respect others, and help us to just find our joy. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. So we're going to study 1 Timothy chapter 4. And first I'm just going to read it off, and then we'll dissect it. So in chapter 1, now the Spirit expressly says that in latter times some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their own conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry and commanding to abstain from foods which God created to be received with thanksgiving by those who believe and know the truth. For every creature of God is good, and nothing is to be refused if it is received with thanksgiving. For it is sanctified by the word of God and prayer. If you instruct the brethren in these things, you will be a good minister of Jesus Christ, nourished in the word of faith, and of the good doctrine which you have carefully followed. But reject profane and old wise fables, and exercise yourself toward godliness. For bodily exercise profits little, but godliness is profitable for all things, having promise of the life that now is, and of that which is to come. This is a faithful saying and worthy of all acceptance. For to this end we both labor and suffer reproach, because we trust in the living God, who is the Savior of all men, especially of those who believe. These things command and teach. I'm going to stop right there because the focus is really going to be on the next 5 verses from 12 to 16, where I'm going to really focus. But I want to kind of go over what we just read and just kind of bring a little bit more understanding. When Paul is writing to Timothy here, he's giving him encouragement. Timothy was a young person in the faith. So Paul's recognizing his youth and want him to just grow, not worry about what other people think of him, but to focus on what he needs to do to grow and learn and be more effective with the gospel. But he's giving them some warnings. He says, some will depart the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines and demons. People are going to leave the church, and they're going to think that it's better to be out here doing these things that doesn't have to do anything with God. And they're going to believe lies. They're going to believe that it's okay to engage in drug use, and that's fine. Even if it's, I just do marijuana, that's fine. I only drink on the weekends, that's okay. Some people think it's okay to steal, little things, not big things. And I only steal from corporations. I've been hearing this a lot. I steal from corporations, that's not a big deal. I say, well, stealing is stealing, right? I mean, someone owns the corporation, so you're actually stealing from them. And so these are the things that people will begin to think about. Now we have the battle of a lot of like sexual exposure to a lot of different things at your age. As you go to school, people are really trying to teach you certain things like this is right to do. And God says, no, it's wrong to do that. And so a long time ago, Paul is telling Timothy, hey, be careful of these things. Speaking hypocrisy, does anybody know what that word means, hypocrisy?
Just telling pointing out someone for pointing out something that someone else is doing, and you also do the same thing.
Yep. Yeah. It comes from a theater term. It's you put on a mask and you play this character. That's why we call it hypocrisy. So it's a theater term from way back then. And so when you are being a hypocrite, you are pretending to be something that you're not. So it is like you see me smoking. Well, I grew up with this. A lot of people, hey, yeah, man, don't smoke. And I'm looking at them like, well, you're smoking. Well, why is it good for you and not good for me? You know, I never smoked, but it was just kind of like I had that thought. You know, like you're smoking, but you're telling me not to smoke. You're doing this, but you're telling me not to do it. And so that's being a hypocrite. And then he goes into, having their own conscience seared with a hot iron. What that means is if I engage in a certain behavior, and that behavior is wrong, and the more I do it, the less I feel guilty about it. I don't care. It doesn't matter. And that's searing my conscience with a hot iron. I am just going to be stuck in this behavior until I surrender to God. Forbidding to marry, commanding to abstain from foods which are created to be received with thanksgiving. So, it says here that, God created everything to be good. So food is food, kind of, right? So, how many of you have eaten dog? Anybody ever taste dog? You tasted dog?
No.
In Japan, they eat dog. When I was in the Marines, and I was gonna go over to a place called Okinawa. That's a base in Japan, and my sergeant was saying, hey, when you get over there, and they give you food, you have to eat it, or they'll be offended. He said, but this is what they eat. And he named all this stuff, and it was like, he said they eat dog. And I was like, I don't know if I could do that. But then, what if I was starving? And there was a dog over there. I'd probably eat the dog, because I want to live. People eat weird stuff. But if God says everything is good, and make things for good, I'm not saying go out and start killing your bags and roasting and having a barbecue today with Fido. What I'm saying is that sometimes people restrict their diet. Like there are people that don't eat pig at all. So no bacon for them. Right? No pork chops. No baby back ribs. Because they don't eat pig. But God says it's okay to eat it, and so some people eat it and some people don't. And there's things that we won't eat.
But they're allergic to pig.
Then they probably shouldn't eat that. We won't eat rats, and we won't eat bats, we won't eat those kind of things, but it's okay. What the point is that I can't say this is bad to eat, while this is good to eat, when God made everything good. That's a good question. That's a great question. Well, dogs are used for companionship as we use them today. At some point they were used as, work animals, pulling sleds. We use them as guard animals, right? Some people train their dogs to be guards around the property. Police use dogs for apprehending and smelling out drugs and stuff and going after the people that are running away. Military use dogs to sniff out bombs. So, we kind of use dogs today, at least in our country. Dogs are not.
Or companionship.
That's what I said the first thing. They're for companionship, and we don't look at them as food. The same as we don't look at horses as food. But some people eat horses. But we don't look at horses as food. Horses are, animals that we ride. We use them for work. They're show animals. So we don't look at them for food. But if there was no food anywhere, there was a horse, you need to feed your family, what are you going to do? So we're not there, so we don't have to think about it. All right, so we're going to move on a little bit. So I want to go down to verse 7 says, reject profane or wise fables and exercise yourself toward godliness. So, old wise fables, they're just things that we tell that don't have any truth to it. Something like, trying to think of a fable I grew up with that I thought was true, but it was like, oh, that doesn't even exist. Can't remember, it was so long ago. Cleanliness is next to godliness. What does that mean? What does it sound like? If I keep myself clean and I keep my room clean, then that makes me a little bit more godly than most, right? So, but that's not true. It's not true. But it is nice to keep ourselves clean and our room clean, but it doesn't connect us to being godly. So that's a thing that I kind of grew up with as a motivator to try and keep my space clean. It didn't work for me as a teenager. When I was your age, you couldn't even see my bedroom floor. Okay, so I want to get to where I want to concentrate on. This is 12 through 16. It says, let no one despise your youth, but be an example to the believers in the word and conduct and love and spirit and faith and purity. Till I come and give attention to the reading, to exhortation, to doctrine. Do not neglect the gift that is in you, which was given to you by prophecy and with the laying on hands of the eldership. Meditate on these things and give yourself entirely to them, that you may progress, that your progress may be evident to all. And take heed to yourself and the doctrine. Continue in them, for in doing this you will save both yourself and those who hear you. Okay, so here's what Paul's telling Timothy. Because you're young, don't let anybody tell you that you don't know enough. So, in the world, you are seen as kids. You're young, you don't know much, you're a little bit foolish to us adults because you're silly, you like to play around and run. And if you have something to say to us, we're like, oh, that's nice. Right? You're kind of like, wait a minute. I know a little bit about this. Have you ever experienced that you knew something about a subject that adults were talking about, and you gave your opinion, and they kind of smiled at you like, and you're just kind of like, wait a minute, I know this. But then later on, they realize you were right. Anybody ever have that experience? I've had that with my kids. I made the mistake of thinking that they didn't know what they were talking about, and I had to come back and go, you were right. You knew what you were talking about. Several times, by the way. So I had to learn, like, not to do that and to actually listen. And this is what Paul is saying to Timothy. So as you are growing in a lot of areas, one, you're physical. You're getting taller. So I remember when Caleb was down here, now he's taller than I am. And you're growing in your knowledge. Some of you are straight A students, and so you know a lot of book knowledge. Technology is your thing because you are the technology generation. You guys are growing up with computers almost implanted in your brain from the time you're little to up. So you know a lot about that. You can access information like that. But we have things called
Dictionaries.
and then encyclopedias. We had to go to the library. We had to look up this thing called the Dewey Decimal System. Anybody ever heard of that? Have you heard of the Dewey Decimal System? Anybody heard? The Dewey Decimal System were these little tiny drawers that had these little cards in it with the book name and then a number. So you write down the number, and then you had to go to the aisles where the numbers coordinate, and you find your book there. Now you have Google. What is, how do I, where do I go? And it's just right there. But we had to actually do the footwork. Go to the library and then go try to find this book and get a big old thick book out and try to find it in the page. It was a lot of work for us. You guys don't know the struggles. So that was one of the things. So you're different in where we were. So you're growing in knowledge. But the thing that's the same as you and me is that you're also growing spiritually. You have the opportunity right now to put God in your life and to move forward with God in your life and avoid a lot of things that a lot of people your age begin to look at. It's fun to be cool. I didn't think Christianity was cool when I was your age. I thought it was boring. I thought you just sit there in church and you say amen a couple of times and you nod your head and you get a little bit of money and then that was it. Because I went to a boring church. So I thought it was boring. I didn't want to be a Christian. I wanted to have some fun first. Then when I became a youth pastor, and the pastor said, hey, brother, we're going to take the kids camping and we're going to do all this stuff. And we had all this fun. I was like, this is what I've been missing. I've been missing all this fun. Christianity is fun. It also is a good protection. Are you just holding your hand up?
I forgot it.
Oh, okay. If it comes back, see that. I'll see that. So Christianity can be cool. The thing about it being cool is that you're cool in purity. You're cool with not having to stress out about who thinks what about you. How many of you are concerned about what others think about you? I'm going to admit, when I was your age, I really did think I had to do what other people thought was cool. And I dressed a certain way. I even had a walk, because this is a cool walk from my neighborhood. I had that walk. I had to look cool, you know, and I used to stand over and be cool. This was being cool back in the day, standing there. And the boys got interested in the girls, then it was really different. Then it was really cool. It was trying to be cool and silly. Right? So I had to do that because that was what everybody thought was cool. While my mom and people in the church were saying, that's not cool. This is what you should do. This is where you avoid all these pitfalls. So Paul is trying to tell Timothy, as you grow in your spirituality with Christ, your relationship with Christ, don't let anyone older than you despise you because of your age. Despising is, you don't know enough, you're not old enough to know this. So I'm not going to listen to you. So if you want to share the gospel to someone who is 60, you, your age, want to share the gospel to someone who's 60, and they don't know the Lord and you do, and you want to lead them to Christ, and then someone who says they know the Lord comes to you and says, hey, I got it from here, you don't know enough. That's kind of what Paul is saying for Timothy to say, hey, I got this. Let me share the Lord. You might be the one that brings this person to Christ, which is kind of a fantastic thing to do. If you've ever done it, it's a wonderful thing to do. If you haven't done it, I encourage you to just share your faith. And if they want to receive Christ, pray for them right then. So here's some people in the Bible that are great examples of being young but standing in the faith with God. I'm going to start with Joseph. Back in Genesis, he was number 11 of 12 brothers. His dad's favorite. Anybody know that story? Jacob.
They're throwing in the pit.
They threw him in the pit. So
And he
Jacob
goes to sell him.
Jacob was wanting to marry Rachel. So he goes to his dad. He says, hey, I want to marry your daughter. He says, okay, yeah, work 7 years with me in my field, get things going, and then you can marry my daughter, and then move on. He worked 7 years. That's a long time. So people, there's a lesson in that alone. When you get older and you want to date, we'll save that for high school. But 7 years he worked to get his wife. But Laban, the dad, had a different plan. He brought Leah and gave him to her, and then back then, so here's how they married. And behind the curtain, the bride comes in, covered, they consummate, and then uncover the bride, and he was like, wait a minute, this isn't Rachel. This isn't the one that I wanted. And he's like, yeah, but Leah's older, and we can't have the younger one married first, so you'll work another 7 years, and then you can marry Rachel. So he did. He worked for the wife he loved for 14 years. It's not recorded. I never read that he had 12 sons. I didn't read any daughters. He may have, I don't know. But he ended up with 12 sons. So he worked 14 years, and then Rachel had Joseph, and that's who he loved. He had all his other sons before then.
Can I get water?
Can you get a water? Like, is it an ability thing? Like, do I know if you can or able? Or maybe get a water? And so Joseph was his favorite. The older brothers didn't like him because dad loved Joseph. And then one day they're out in the field, he comes over and says, hey guys, what are you guys doing? Oh, he's gonna go tell dad that we're doing that. So let's take care of him right now. They throw him in the pit, they sell him, he goes to Egypt. He's in Potiphar's house. Potiphar likes what he's doing. He's working hard. Potiphar puts him in charge of his house. But then Potiphar's wife says, hey, Joseph, you're kind of cute. Why don't you come play husband with me? And he's like, no, I can't do that. So then she gets mad because she kept trying and he would say no. And then she finally says, he tried to sleep with me. So Potiphar had put him in jail. He was in jail for a long time. Long time. And he interpreted some dreams with a couple of people that in Pharaoh's court came in. One was executed, the other one went back to Pharaoh. Pharaoh had a dream, couldn't interpret it. And the cupbearer said, you know, there's a guy in jail who interpreted my dream, said I'll be right back here. You want to talk to him? So Joseph talked to him, and Pharaoh made him second in charge. So Joseph stood firm with God, even through all that adversary. Remember, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, went to prison. All those years, he could have said, forget it, God. If this is my life, I don't want anything to do with you. He didn't. He stood firm. And he started when he was young and became the second in charge. I'm going to move a little bit forward to Moses. Now Moses, he kind of takes over because Israel settled in Egypt. Egypt became, the Israelites became very great in Egypt, and then Egypt enslaved them. And for 400 years, they were in slavery. And then they cried out to God, we need to be saved. So when Moses was born, anybody know this story? All the Hebrew boys from 0 to 2 were getting killed.
Yeah, because he heard there was Messiah.
A deliverer. They called him a deliverer at this time, not a Messiah, but a deliverer, which is kind of the same thing.
Could live. I heard
Yeah.
they got eaten by alligators.
They were killing them in all kinds of manners. But Moses' mom didn't want him to die. So she put him in a basket and sent him down the Nile River where Pharaoh's sister found him. And then raised him in the palace.
What?
You have your hand up.
I don't know. Was it the first sister? But I don't know. Told me this. She was like, it was like the Pharaoh's daughter or something like that.
I think it was his sister. I think it was Pharaoh's sister. Or maybe it was Pharaoh's daughter. But I can look it up and I can give you that answer.
Yeah, I don't know.
And so, so Moses grew up in the palace, but guess who nursed him? His mom. His mom taught him about being an Israelite, that he's a Hebrew. And so for a young age, he's kept that all the way up until one day he's walking around and he sees this Egyptian beating on the Israelite slave, and he kills him. Then he runs. He's in this wilderness for 40 years. God used him. He comes back. He frees everyone. But again, he started out very young, and he held on to his faith. And the theme is holding on to your faith when you're very young, because everyone's going to go through something horrific. Next person I want to mention is Samson, the first Superman. Super strength. Right? From birth, God had him plan to be a judge.
I know something wrong. If he cut his hair, he would lose his strength.
Right, so his covenant was to never cut his hair. So his hair was long. From birth all the way up until he got the Spirit of God in him, which was through his hair, his covenant, and he was able to save Israel. But for when he was really little, his parents made sure that he knew who he was, so he held on to his faith. Again, being young and holding on to your faith. What? All right, so he fell down later in life, but then he came back to God. And we all know what kind of happened to him, right? And then there was another person that was called from birth, Saul, the prophet. And he grew up learning about God, and he held on to that all the way through his life. Now, it would kind of be cool to be a prophet because a prophet actually hears from God, like directly. I want you to tell this to the people. But he goes out, this is what God says. And Saul anointed David. And David loved God all his life. As a matter of fact, known as the man after God's own heart. That is a tremendous honor to hear. What that meant was, everything that David did, he made sure that it was in line with God, and then when he wasn't doing what God wanted, he repented immediately. So we know what happened with David. When he was about your age, he was killing lions and bears to save the sheep. And then there was this war with the Philistines. So Goliath, he was so big that he couldn't even fit in his room. Because he was 9 feet tall. And this is not not even 8 feet. My reach is 7'3". So he couldn't even fit in his room. He would have to be like this in the room. 9 feet tall. That's pretty big. And he's, you know, insulting God, God's people, and Israelite, they're scared to go out after him. How can you beat this person? He was so big. But then David, young kid, young teenager, walks up, probably about, you know, doesn't say how tall he is. He was young and ruddy. And he walks up and he says, how come no one's killing this guy? He's insulting God. All the faith that God was with him. He goes out to meet him in battle. I want to use you real quick. Why don't you come here? Okay, stand right there. That's David, I'm Goliath. Right? And so he's looking at me like, I got you today. And I'm like, what the? You insult me by bringing a boy out to fight me? Now, here's the thing that we know about Goliath. When he was little, he was a warrior. When he was about 12, he was already as tall as a full-grown man. And he just kept growing until 9 feet. And he's all insulted. But then David said, today, God with me is going to defeat you. Picks up a little rock, his little slingshot, starts to swing it. Goliath's laughing at him. Let it go. Hits him in the head. Here's the gross part. He can sit down. He takes Goliath's sword, which is probably like, you know, Goliath was 9 feet tall. He had to have weapons that are proportionate to his size. So his sword had to be really big. He cuts Goliath's heads off, just to make sure he's dead. Here's his head. The victory went to him. So throughout David's life, he honored God all the way up until he sinned. Anybody know his sin? What's his sin? David's worst sin. What was it specifically? You know?
Murder.
Yeah. Murder. He's the king now. He is the king. He stays home from a battle. And, you know, he's walking on top of his palace and there's a beautiful woman over there. He tells his servant, hey, go get that beautiful woman and tell her to come over to the palace. I want to holler at her. So she comes over. He's talking to her. He's talking to her. She says, oh yeah, my husband is Uriah. He's one of your, you know, lieutenants in the army. Oh, Uriah. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, you're beautiful. Uriah's way out there. Let's play house. And then he gets her pregnant. And he's like, oh. You know what I'll do? I'll bring Uriah home and I will, you know, pretend like he's the father. So he says, hey Uriah, go home to your wife. You've been fighting the battle. I just want to give you some rest. Enjoy your wife. Uriah goes home and he sleeps outside in the front door. Calls him up, hey, how come you didn't spend time with your wife? He says, I can't sleep with my wife while everyone's in battle. That's disrespectful. I can't do that. He says, oh, okay. Hey, why don't you come over tonight? He comes over, he starts getting him drunk. Go home to your wife, thinking that's going to work. He does the exact same thing, even though he's drunk. And I'm pretty sure he got him pretty drunk. He does the same thing, he sleeps out. Because his conviction was stronger than being drunk. So David's like, okay, I'm going to have to do something. So he writes a letter to the army captains. Hey, put Uriah at the front of the battle. And then when he gets heat, pull everybody back and make Uriah charge. That should do it. So he does it. Uriah gets killed. He brings Bathsheba into his house, marries her, She's pregnant with his kid. Thought he had it covered. But you gotta remember something. God sees everything. So God brings Nathan to him, and Nathan says, "Hey, there's this guy who has a bunch of sheep, and there's another guy who has just the one sheep, and this guy, that's his pet. He brings him into the house and feeds him, hand feeds him, and sleep, in the same room. But the one guy that had the many sheep, took the one sheep from the guy and killed him to feed his guests. And David was mad. What? Now David is a shepherd, remember, so he understands this, and he's upset. He says, that guy should pay for this. That guy needs a harsh punishment. He should be put to death. He's mad. And then Nathan said, well, David, the guy is you. And you took Uriah's sheep for your own purposes. David had wives. He had like 3 wives and concubines. Yeah, you have many wives, but you took the one man's wife, and then you had him killed. God's going to get you for that. So David paid a heavy price. He also repented right away. You're right. I was wrong. Lord, this is my sin. I forgive. And remember, he learned that from when he was really little. When you sin, you turn right back to God. Right back to God. All right, then I want to also talk about one other group of young folks that I really like. That when I was 18 and I started to kind of come back to the Lord, I paid attention to these groups. Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Anybody know who those people are? David, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So at this time period, Israel was again turning away from God, and they got captured by Babylon, taken into captivity. David, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were kind of like standouts. They were standouts of all the people. So they were like, hey, take those guys into the king's court, teach them. They're going to be serving the king directly. So they were smart, and they had good stature. They were wise. They were also really firm rooted in God. And this is how it plays out for them. As they had learned God's ways, and they stuck with God's ways, the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, he wanted everybody to kind of bow down to his image that he made. Big 90-foot image. And gathered everybody in the courtyard there, all the people in the kingdom. And so when the music sounded, everybody bowed down and worshiped this image that I made. So everybody bowed down, but then he saw, I don't know where Daniel was at the time, but he saw those three. They were standing. He said, hey, bring those 3 guys up here. Why didn't you bow down? They said, because we only bow down to the one true living God. That's who we bow down to. And he got mad, being disobedient. Hey, I'm going to play this music one more time, and you're going to bow down to this image, or you're going to die. And they said, we're not going to bow down to the image. And he says, I'm going to burn you in the furnace if you don't do it. You can burn us in the furnace if you want to. We're not going to bow down to your image. We only bow down to God, the Most High, the one true living God. So he was really mad. He said, hey, keep that furnace up. And I want it so hot.
He told him to turn it 10 times as high as it
Yeah.
wanted to be.
So they're throwing all kinds of wood.
And the guards fell in there too.
They were going to it. It was like a pit. It was so hot that as they got close to the pit to shove them in, it was so hot that they burned up before they even finished the job. But those three were thrown into the pit, and they're just standing there. Fire's going. King Nebuchadnezzar was looking at them. They're not burning up. They're just standing there. And King Nebuchadnezzar looked at his people. He said, "Didn't we throw 3 in there? How come I see 4? And the 4th looks like the son of the gods." That's kind of prophetic term for him to say that it was Jesus standing with him, protecting him. And then he told them to come out. They came out, and nothing on them was singed. Have you ever got your clothing too close to a fire and it just burns a little bit? Yeah. Have anybody ever been to a campfire and you've been sitting at the campfire and then you get up and then you smell like this because the smoke was on you? You smell like the campfire? None of that happened with them. They didn't smell like it. There was nothing touching them. All because when they were at a young age, they held on to God. And this is where you have the opportunity right now to make the choice. Hold on to God right now. And as you continue to grow in stature, get bigger, get older, in knowledge and wisdom, in your relationship with Christ, anything that comes onto you, you're going to be able to withstand because God's going to be your shield. God's going to hold you out there. And I want to talk about one last person. This person is in the New Testament and was about 13, 14 years old and was just kind of hanging out. And then an angel appeared in front of this person and said, "Hey, Mary, you're going to be the mother of Jesus Christ." And she's like, "Wait a minute, I'm not married. How is that going to happen?" Because in this culture, they didn't do anything until they got married. So she's like, "I don't know. What do you mean?" And he said, "Yeah, you're going to be the mother of Jesus Christ. The Holy Spirit is going to do a miraculous thing and impregnate you with Jesus, and then you're going to be his mom." And she was just like, "Okay, however you say it." Just like that. And why was she able to do that? Because when she was younger and grew up, she made that choice to hold on to Jesus Christ, God's word, and she became the mother of Jesus. So one of the things I wanted to do is I kind of trying to figure out what am I going to say to you guys today was it's important to encourage you that you are all smart. You all have convictions and passions, and you make choices every single day. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you choose, today I'm going to follow Jesus or not. You choose that every day. And everywhere you go, there's going to be choices. And if God is your foundation and your anchor, then the choices you will make that will follow him will save you from a lot of things and put you in places where you never thought you would be. So remember, like Mary was the mother of Jesus. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were saved in fire furnace. I forgot to talk about Daniel. Well, he's older, but he wouldn't stop praying. The law was you can't pray for 30 days, and he prayed. Opened his window up like he did all the time and prayed. The king of Persia was holding Israel at this time and threw him in the lion's den. Hungry lions. You know, they keep the lions hungry so that when they throw somebody in there, they just get eaten. How many of you have cats? How many of you, your cat sleep with you sometimes? Just lay on you? Yeah. That's what happened with the lions, because they're big cats. They just laid with Daniel, right? And why? Why was Daniel able to stand against such a law and have that strong conviction? It's because when he was your age, he made a choice that God was going to be the most important thing in his life. So, Psalm 23. Anybody know that one? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I want to stop right there. Because if you just know that first verse, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, then you will know, then you will understand that God provides everything for you. And no matter what you may go through, always go to God first. That would be the first thing you do. Pray. Lord, help me. I don't understand what's going on, but I'm going to trust that you have me. I don't know why people are turning away from me. I don't know why people are being mean to me. I don't know why my teachers see me like they don't like me. But thank you. Thank you for putting me in a position to witness. Amen. So just like Paul wanted to encourage Timothy here, I want to encourage you. Be involved in discussions because you're smart enough to. If you're not smart enough to, learn. And don't let anyone tell you you're too young. You're too young to drive. Sorry, you are. You're too young to drive. But that doesn't mean you can't learn how to drive. And then when you're able to drive, you're moving forward. Knowing you're not too young to learn. Not too young to learn. So learn and grow. Most of all, anything you walk away with today, make sure that God is with you all the time. All right, let's pray. Lord, thank you for this time we have spent together. Help us to take what you wanted to share with us and put it in our lives. Help us to make sure that you are always in the front, that we always see you, that we always compare something to you. And if it doesn't match up to you, we let that go. If it matches up to you, we hold on to it. Thank you for our parents. Thank you for the life that you've given us. Bless our week as we go up. Help us to be a light in this world. In Jesus' name I pray.
Hey, he said,
Put that down. Whoa! Yay! Yay!
Mom,
Yay!
take him.
Yay! Yay! He's scared of three kids. Let me help you make it through I can totally stop this. Are you kidding?
How you doing?
Fortnite? I'm sorry. But what?
Here, I am trustworthy. Why is there water? I am trustworthy to do this bucket. I can do it. Who watches this?
Oh, that's dirty. See, I can't lift it up. It's here. Yeah, reach to this one. Oh, that one. Oh, that one.
I'm trustworthy to do it.
What? I just stacked the chairs like so. What's the problem?
Daddy! Oh, there we go. Did I miss? Hey, I won! No. I won!
Excuse me. Speak to your mom. Oh, excuse your boy, Papa, and Mother.
I'm getting 4 more 6. Wait, you're his sister.
Already?
Oh, I'm screwed. Are we still talking about the
What do you like?
The whole time.
What did you do?
That's the only one you have. That you don't allow a lot of people to just come on to you. And you are very, very exclusive. Right? Yeah, that means you didn't allow a lot of people to get close to you.
Well, we can put away this stuff on the table. Oh my god.
It wasn't the only time you held my hand and we walked down the hall. You did that a lot. Yeah, you did. You always did that. All right, I'll see you around. I'm gonna be in a little kid.
Who did this?
That's one of the kids on Friday.
You didn't know, but were you a student? Is that what you did?
This is all moments that we missed out.
Well, I figured there would be a few that would want to help us.
Yeah.
And then there's some that should stay far.
Stay far, far away. Everyone would have to do a corner of that picture of themselves and just divide it by. This is all pictures of Judah. This is all pictures of Charlie. This is Deity.